So Sam Pittman not going to be knocked off. Not this year. Athletic directors can change their mind, but Arkansas made an announcement making it official. They had told the team that Sam Pittman will be back, which sets up for a very interesting 2024 for the Arkansas Razorbacks, and really an interesting next month, 2 months. As the transfer portal, the early signing period, the scrutiny that will be applied to this Arkansas program is going to be high heading into next season for Sam Pittman. Danny, were you, if you were put in the position of being Arkansas's athletic director, do you think that you would be following the same kind of game plan?
We've never done this before, and we're still going to do the full episode, but this is one of my buys. So that this is pre-market. This is a pre-market trade. And I actually had a little video of why I do like it. Jordan, do you have it ready? Can you give it to me?
The host of this party was going to be serving up today. What's the drink of choice tonight?
Well, I'm not promoting it, but I like some old cold beer. I think I'm going to have one. I'm not promoting it now.
Enjoy it, Coach Pittman. Thank you.
Go Hogs.
How does Sam Pittman celebrate being bowl eligible?
Well, I believe I'm going to have my old cold beer. And that's kind of what I like to do,
Do you need any company?
Anybody want to come, but bring some, you know what I mean?
BYOB, baby.
Go Hogs.
All right, so I actually am good with this move. I'm actually buying it because, Dino was 8 years. Sam Pittman's only been there 4. And this is his worst year by far. You did have the season that was a little bit of an outlier with the 9-4 season back in 2021. Last year, you got to bowl eligibility, 7-6. You're over 500. This season's come apart, right? Loses Kendall, brings in Enos, doesn't work. It's just kind of come off the rails. I still think the players are responding to what he wants to do. And maybe, just maybe, do we have a chance? Because we said, what are the realistic expectations for Syracuse? Do we have an athletic director who understands what the expectations should be for their head coach?
Interesting you asked that. I would ask you this. If they had to make a change, does Hunter Urasek get to make that change? Because he also hired Morris, who was a drastic failure. I know he's well liked there, but I think this AD is pretty tied to the success of Sam Pittman. Right? That's, does he have warm beer if they lose? That's awesome. The whole selling point on Pittman was that he was going to be Arkansas's Dabo, right? A non-play caller, vibes guy, understood good relationships in the coaching industry, would hire good coaches. First time around, I think he did that. Then you lose Bryles to Arkansas, maybe a little meddling with the offense last year, depending, and you make a really bad hire in Dan Enos. And we didn't second guess that. We first guessed that on this show. And I think a lot of smart people in football were like, all right, what's happening here? If Pittman's whole pitch is, hey, I'm going to hire great coordinators, and I'm going to make sure the vibes are good, I'm going to work the boosters, and then you hire Dan Enos, what are we doing here? That's just like hiring your buddy. And Enos is not a good offensive coach. He might be a good quarterback coach from what I understand, but coordinator, terrible. So I guess you give him a second shot if you don't have somebody in mind. But I thought Trey Biddy of Hog Sports had a great column. If you guys haven't read this, I know you have, but I'm talking about the audience haven't read it. Really worth reading. Trey's generally like the stone cold nuts on Arkansas. If I want Arkansas stuff, there's one guy I go to. And I thought he's like, look, man, if you're going to keep Pittman, you need to open up the checkbook, big time money for an OC, and you need to buy real impact players out of the portal to keep this thing going. You can't keep Pittman and go cheap. He's like, look, if it's a money thing, then you need to ask, should you be in the SEC? Which honestly is a question I've asked too. I don't know. The money's great, but if you're a fan, it's not great for you. You don't get any extra benefit because your assistant AD makes $260 instead of $190, right? You're still taking a lot more L's on the field. You're not actually competing for any kind of SEC title. If you're Arkansas, who do you think's happier? Texas Tech, which is going to have a real shot to win the Big 12, or Arkansas, which has they're just trying not to finish second to last. I don't know. So we'll see what kind of coordinator they can get for him, and we'll see what kind of guys they can get out of the portal. But whatever.
Yeah, but don't say it. Tom.
I'm such a nihilist on this stuff. Like you take the checks, take the losses.
In all likelihood, they're going to finish 4-8. They'll probably lose to Missouri, but they might beat Missouri. That's the thing about like this move. I expected Pittman would be fired after the season. I don't know that keeping him is the wrong decision just because I didn't expect it. Like, I think there are strong arguments on both sides in that it's the worst season. You don't want to overreact. If you look at them, 5 of their losses have been by 1 score. Like, there was the home loss to BYU, which you shouldn't lose, but it was a 1-score loss. You lost at LSU by 3. You lost at a neutral site to Texas A&M by 12, but you lost at Ole Miss by 7. You lost at Alabama by 3. You lost at home to Mississippi State in a game in which I think the players were throwing a coup over the aforementioned Dan Enos, in which they clearly were trying to send a message. It's like, so it's not like this is a team that's been getting blown out all year or is truly super far away from at least being more competitive on the field next year. So there is an argument to be made that if you change the OC and you hit the portal and get some key players, you can be, 7-5 next year, which I think is realistically in the new SEC. If you're Arkansas, let's be real, that's kind of what you are. It's not all that different from Syracuse. I know that we talk about these programs differently because they're in the SEC and the SEC is the greatest, but the SEC also has mediocre programs just like everybody else. And I think Arkansas is kind of in that territory. And if you look at their schedule next year, like, how many of these games are they favored in, no matter who's the coach? They've got their non-con games against Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UAB, and Louisiana Tech. Bang.
And Oak State.
And you got Oklahoma State on the road. You're probably not favored there. Neutral side against A&M, probably not favored. You're at home against LSU, Ole Miss, and Tennessee and Texas. Are you favored in any of those games?
No, but I think you expect to win at least one of those. Like,
Okay.
the names I'm not hearing so far are the most important names to me.
Alabama, Georgia.
Yes.
Yeah, but you still got LSU, Texas, Auburn, Missouri,
And no Vandy.
Texas A&M, Oklahoma State. It's like there is no escaping it anymore. Like, yeah, okay, we get rid of Alabama. We don't have to play them every year, but this is the reality for all teams in the SEC and the Big Ten now.
They voted for it.
Yeah,
They
you
voted to
don't
bring in Oklahoma,
dodge.
Texas.
You're going to dodge a couple teams, and then you're going to get hit over the head just with the other teams. It's like the best teams in the league are going to be on your schedule every year. Maybe not all of them, but at least 2 of them. And you've got to figure out ways to get around that. And that's just the reality of the situation. Like, I mean, what we're using Arkansas here as the example because of what's going on, but I think a lot of fan bases over the next decade are going to have to come to terms with the new reality of the sport. And I don't want to go down. I'm doing it. You cried that you wanted an expanded playoff. This is the future it's brought you. Congratulations. You might be able to compete for a large berth one day.
Wait, is the expanded playoff what's doing it, or is it expanded conferences? Because
The
to me, it's the
expanded conferences, because they're trying to streamline their berths into the playoff. They're trying to get everything in order so that way they can get to the playoff to make the most money, because what's driving the sport? The same people who expanded the playoff and are expanding the conferences.
I understand the logic. I don't know that holds quite as much. I think it's more related to, like, you voted to let Texas and Oklahoma into the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
You voted to let A&M and Missouri into the league. So you voted like 3 of the last 4 teams to enter the league are clearly a better program. Like, you don't really compete with those teams in terms of ability to get players, ability to get coaches. That's going to lead to like 1, maybe 0.75 more losses per year. It's going to lead to a scenario in which your best team that you can possibly field cannot win the conference. Like, it's a real dream killer, because it used to be like, man, you could dream on it, right? Okay. Hey, like, whatever, that South Carolina team that had Alshon Jeffrey, had they not run into Cam Newton, like, could they have won the conference? I still say no, but like now it's definitely a no, because the best team to come out of that league is just going to be so much better than it used to be. Like, there's 7 teams in the league now. I don't think the best possible team that money can buy, unless we get a salary cap, have any shot of winning the league. And Arkansas is one of them. So I wonder, like, at what point do fans get turned off by this?
To take it local, yeah, I got you. To take it local, a little bit less big picture and nihilistic. I thought that Biddy made a great point in his column that the 1-score losses do show, how close things can be. but he also identified 3 specific spots that showed incredible shortcomings of this coaching staff. 38-31 at home to BYU, 7-3 at home to Mississippi State. And then coming off the win against Florida in Gainesville, the team looked, his analysis, and I agree with it, unprepared to go up against Auburn, and Auburn wins 48-10 at home.
The Auburn that lost by 21 to New Mexico State.
I put that Mississippi State loss on Pittman, by the way, because I think those players with their play were basically protesting Enos.
Yeah, that's but
I mean,
like
it looked like they quit and they were trying to get him fired.
So you look at those 3 results, all at home, all a poor reflection. Like, that's where this thing has to get cleaned up, because those games should not have gone that way. And you figure out how to flip that. I mean, you're bowl eligible, right? We're not asking a lot from you to be able to win those games against those teams at home. So coordinator hires, investing in your NIL war chest, like those things have to happen for Arkansas to be able to continue forward and have this be, just a little blip instead of, as this was another great call from Biddy. Like, are we looking at a Will Muschamp at South Carolina situation where he's like, okay, we're going to bring him back, but then it's just going to be a 6-6, 7-5 type season that's not inspiring enough, and then you end up making the call? Again, a lot of that, I think, is going to depend on what happens in the portal and with the coach hiring cycle coming up over the next 6 to 8 weeks or so.
To be blunt, I don't know what happens in the portal that's going to keep Arkansas from being Arkansas next year, and just
I can tell you,
lead to a new coach.
Number one, keeping your best players from leaving, and number 2, being able to convince some seniors with eligibility to come back, because then you've got a veteran group with a good coaching staff. And if the defense is built out, then you get the good offensive coordinator hire. And if Criswell is the guy, which he might be, then you at least have a pretty good quarterback, but you definitely need to go out and get yourself a quarterback and some weapons as well, as I imagine Rocket Sanders is probably off to the NFL.
They got 4 wins on their schedule now. Can they get 2 more, 3 more? And is that enough?
No.
I think they can win 7.
I think they can too.
Yeah.
But will that be enough? Like, part of the reason this is easier to sell now is that Arkansas fans do genuinely like Sam Pittman. Like, this would be much different if Sam Pittman was like an a-hole. Like, he's not. He's a very nice person who fits in with the culture and the fan base, and he's beloved down there for the most part. But after a 4-8 season, I don't know if going 7-5 is going to be enough, especially when you look around the rest of that landscape of the conference, and people are going to be seeing, Texas and Oklahoma and Georgia and Alabama and LSU and all these guys competing for playoff berths.
Well, are we sure Texas, Oklahoma come waltzing in competing for playoff berths?
No, but I'm sure they'll be more competitive than Arkansas.
Yeah, exactly. It pushes you down. Regardless if Texas or Oklahoma reach that Bama status or Georgia status, they're still clearly better than Arkansas. Like, you voted for it. You voted to move yourself down 2 spots in the SEC power ratings. I think Arkansas should try to get to the Big 12. But when I say this, Arkansas fans tell me we love basketball and we love our baseball. And it's kind of like the Vanderbilt thing, right? Like, Vanderbilt has awesome baseball. Taking all those losses in football there allows them to spend that money on baseball. Arkansas kind of does the same thing. So,
you think in any world we could see that happen, though, Bud, where a team would leave that payday?
No, because the fans don't vote. The athletic administrators who are getting rich as hell off the big TV money vote.
Yeah.
Like, your director of compliance, who's making 2.25, loves taking all these losses at Arkansas, right?
Whoa,
like,
is that a real number?
No, well, actually, your director of compliance would probably have a law degree, so you'd have to compete it. No, probably not. Probably like $1.50.
Okay,
but still, like, I mean, these are the people that are going to vote for it, right? Like, your ADs aren't going to be like, yeah, let's take a pay cut. It'll make our fans happy because we'll actually have a chance to win a league and be competitive and have, more than 3 or 4 games a year we think we're definitely going to win, but they won't vote for it. People don't vote for pay cuts.
I mean, I happen to enjoy the Big Pig Snout, Bud Walton Arena, and the Coach Muss era at Arkansas basketball program's fun as hell. So I don't know.
Big 12's pretty good at basketball too.
That's true.
Just like, in fact, it's better than the SEC.
Like, they would compete in the Big 12, right? Like, we are Arkansas.
Yes.
Yeah.
They would.
Like, they wouldn't
it's
win
a great
all the time,
basketball league, and they'd be competitive in football just as much.
They would we would drop them in. Like to your point, Texas and Oklahoma get dropped in and they get pushed down 2 spots, just sort of in the overall like pecking order, the way you look at it. You drop them into the Big 12 as it is currently constituted, or even with the other teams that are joining it, the new Big 12. I mean, easy conversation for top 6.
Yeah, be competing for a Big 12 championship berth next year.
Kansas State,
right off
Utah,
the jump.
Arizona.
Kansas State, Utah.
Arizona, if they keep this team together, will be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go from bottom 4 team in the SEC to a top 4 team in the Big 12, I think.